In the small village of Nkar, there lived a young girl named Lila. Lila was unlike any other girl in the village. While the other girls were slim and fit, Lila had a curvy figure with a big bust. Her body began to change when she was just 12, and as she grew older, her breasts continued to grow larger and larger. Nkar was a village known for its people's slim and fit bodies. The women were admired for their petite frames, and the men were known for their lean and muscular physiques. But Lila, with her curves and big bust, stood out like a sore thumb. The villagers began to whisper about her, and soon everyone knew her as the girl with the growing breasts. As Lila's body continued to change, the gossip in the village grew louder. The women whispered about her in the market, and the men avoided her gaze. Lila's mother, Amma, was worried about her daughter. She tried to comfort Lila, telling her that she was beautiful in her own way, but Lila couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong with her. As Lila grew older, she began to struggle with her body. Her clothes no longer fit, and she had to start making her own dresses to accommodate her growing bust. The other girls in the village teased her, calling her names and making fun of her size. To avoid the stares and ridicule, Lila began to avoid going out in public. Amara was Lila's best and only friend. They had grown up together, playing in the fields and chasing butterflies as little girls. Amara was a kind-hearted and brave girl with a bright smile that could light up a room. She had always seen the beauty in Lila that others overlooked. To Amara, Lila was more than just her appearance. She was a kind, caring, and intelligent person who deserved to be loved and accepted. As the years went by, the teasing and bullying only got worse. The other children would laugh at Lila, calling her names and making cruel jokes about her body. But Amara was always there to defend her friend. There were days when Lila felt like she couldn't take it anymore. She would hide in her room, refusing to come out and face the world. On one such day, Lila locked herself in her room and cried. She couldn't bear the constant teasing and the way people looked at her as if she were a freak. Amara came to Lila's house and found her friend in tears. She knocked on the door and softly called out, "Lila, it's me, Amara. Please let me in." Through a few moments, Lila unlocked the door and Amara walked in. Without saying a word, Amara sat beside Lila and wrapped her arms around her. She didn't try to force Lila to talk. She simply let her friend cry and held her until the tears stopped. When Lila was ready, Amara gently said, "It's okay to feel sad, Lila. But remember, you're not alone. I'm here with you and I always will be." At 18, Lila had blossomed into a confident young woman, despite the challenges she had faced growing up. Her curvy figure and large bust, once the source of ridicule, were now embraced by Lila as a unique part of who she was. She had grown into her own, thanks in large part to the unwavering support of her best friend Amara. Lila had also found a purpose as a healer in the village, using the knowledge passed down by her late grandmother to help those in need. But despite all her accomplishments, there was one part of Lila's life that remained unfulfilled. She had never experienced love. Every Tuesday and Thursday, the village of Nkar bustled with activity as people from neighboring villages gathered in the open square for the weekly market. Stalls filled with fresh produce, handmade crafts, and colorful textiles lined the square. The aroma of freshly cooked food wafted through the air, and the sounds of haggling and laughter filled the space. It was a lively event that everyone in the village looked forward to, and Lila was no exception. Lila loved going to the market, not just to buy food and supplies for her household, but also to meet with Amara and catch up on the latest news from the surrounding villages. On this particular Thursday, Lila was especially excited. Amara had told her about a new vendor who had been selling exotic spices and herbs from faraway lands, and Lila couldn't wait to see what he had to offer. As Lila made her way through the crowded market, she noticed a tall, handsome young man standing behind a stall filled with jars of spices, dried herbs, and colorful powders. He had a warm, inviting smile, and his eyes sparkled with kindness. Lila couldn't help but be drawn to him, though she wasn't sure why. Perhaps it was the way he carefully arranged his wares, or the way he greeted each customer with genuine interest. As Lila approached the stall, the young man looked up and their eyes met. For a moment, the hustle and bustle of the market seemed to fade away, and it was just the two of them. The young man smiled at Lila, and she felt a flutter in her chest. "Hello," he said, his voice gentle and melodic. "Are you looking for something special today?" Lila hesitated for a moment, unsure of what to say. She had come to the stall out of curiosity, but now she felt a strange connection to this stranger. "I'm just browsing," Lila replied with a shy smile. "But your spices are beautiful. Where are they from?" The young man's smile widened. "These are from my village Zanu, just a day's journey from here. My name is Kofi, by the way." "Lila," she replied, feeling her cheeks flush slightly. "It's nice to meet you, Kofi." As Lila and Kofi continued to talk, they discovered that they had much in common. Kofi had a deep appreciation for nature and had learned the art of spice blending from his mother, who was a renowned herbalist in their village. He was passionate about the healing properties of herbs and loved sharing his knowledge with others. Lila found herself captivated by Kofi's stories, and she realized that she had never met anyone like him before. Amara, who had been watching from a distance, noticed the connection between Lila and Kofi and couldn't help but smile. She knew that Lila deserved happiness and that Kofi might just be the one to bring it to her. Over the next few weeks, Lila found herself visiting Kofi's stall every time she went to the market. They would talk for hours about herbs, spices, and life in their respective villages. Lila learned that Kofi had lost his father at a young age and had taken on the responsibility of supporting his mother and younger siblings. Despite the hardships he had faced, Kofi was always optimistic and full of life, and Lila admired his strength and resilience. As their friendship grew, Lila began to feel something more for Kofi. She looked forward to their conversations and found herself thinking about him even when they were apart. Kofi, too, seemed to be drawn to Lila, and he often went out of his way to make her smile, whether by gifting her a rare herb or telling her a funny story. One Thursday, as Lila and Kofi were talking at the market, a group of young men from Kar passed by. They noticed Lila talking to Kofi and began to make cruel remarks about her body, as they had done many times before. Lila's heart sank, and she felt the familiar sting of humiliation. But before she could say anything, Kofi stepped forward, his eyes blazing with anger. "How dare you speak to her like that?" Kofi demanded, his voice firm and unwavering. "Lila is a kind, intelligent, and beautiful woman, and she deserves your respect." The young men were taken aback by Kofi's boldness and quickly backed down, muttering apologies before walking away. Lila was stunned. No one had ever stood up for her like that before, and she felt a surge of gratitude and affection for Kofi. "Thank you," Lila said softly, her eyes filled with emotion. "You didn't have to do that." "I did," Kofi replied, his voice gentle again. "Because you deserve to be treated with respect, Lila. You are worth more than you know." After that day, Lila and Kofi's friendship deepened, and their feelings for each other became impossible to ignore. Lila found herself falling for Kofi's kindness, his strength, and the way he saw her for who she truly was. Amara noticed the change in Lila and couldn't have been happier for her friend. She had always known that Lila was special and that one day someone would see her for the incredible person she was. One evening, after the market had closed, Kofi walked Lila home. The sun was setting, casting a warm golden glow over the village. As they reached Lila's house, Kofi took her hand in his and looked into her eyes. "Lila, there's something I need to tell you," Kofi said, his voice sincere. "I have feelings for you, feelings that go beyond friendship. I've never met anyone like you before, and I can't stop thinking about you. I want to be with you if you'll have me." Lila's heart raced as she listened to Kofi's words. She had never imagined that someone like Kofi could care for her in that way, but now that she knew, she felt a sense of happiness she had never known before. "I feel the same way, Kofi," Lila replied, her voice filled with emotion. "I've never met anyone like you either. I would be honored to be with you." Kofi smiled, and without another word, he gently pulled Lila into his arms. They shared a kiss, and Lila couldn't be happier. Kofi tried to take things further, but Lila stopped him. She told him she wanted them to take things slow and do things the right way. Kofi smiled in understanding. They spent some more time together before Kofi left for home. Twice a month, the villages in the region, including Kar and its neighboring communities, hosted a grand event where young men and women of marriageable age gathered to find their life partners. It was a tradition that had been passed down through generations, and it was eagerly anticipated by everyone in the surrounding villages. The event took place in a large open field, decorated with vibrant banners and filled with the sounds of drums, flutes, and traditional songs. It was a time of joy, hope, and new beginnings. The event was divided into two parts. In the first part, the young women, dressed in their finest traditional attire, took to the stage in batches. They sang, danced, and showcased their talents, whether it was weaving, storytelling, or cooking. Each woman had the chance to present herself to the suitors, hoping to catch the eye of a young man who would choose her as his bride. The dances were especially significant, as they were not just about movement but about telling stories, expressing emotions, and demonstrating the grace and strength that each woman possessed. The second part of the event was where the young men, after observing the performances, would make their choice. They would step forward and publicly announce their interest in a particular young woman. If the woman accepted, they would exchange tokens of promise, and the courtship would begin, leading to marriage in the coming months. Lila had always dreamed of this day. She had grown up watching the older girls participate, and now at 18 it was finally her turn. Despite the challenges she had faced growing up, Lila had become a confident and talented young woman, thanks in large part to the unwavering support of her best friend, Amara, and her deep connection with Kofi. She was optimistic that Kofi, who had expressed such deep affection for her, would choose her as his bride. On the day of the event, Lila was nervous but excited. She had spent weeks preparing for her performance, and with Amara by her side, she felt ready to take on the world. Lila wore a beautiful dress that she had made herself, adorned with intricate beadwork and vibrant colors that reflected her personality. Her hair was styled in a way that highlighted her natural beauty, and her heart was full of hope. As she danced and sang in front of the gathered crowd, Lila felt alive. She poured her heart into her performance, knowing that Kofi was watching. She believed in their connection, in the bond they had formed over the past few months. She imagined their future together, sharing a life filled with love, joy, and mutual respect. She was certain that Kofi would choose her, just as she had already chosen him in her heart. When the time came for the young men to make their choices, Lila's heart raced. She stood with the other young women, her eyes scanning the crowd for Kofi. She spotted him walking towards her, and her heart soared. This was it, the moment she had been waiting for. But as Kofi approached, something in his demeanor seemed different. His eyes did not meet hers with the warmth she had come to know. Instead, they were distant, and his expression was one of determination, not affection. Lila's heart began to sink, a feeling of dread washing over her. To her shock, Kofi walked past her and approached a slim young woman from a neighboring village. The girl was delicate and petite, with a shy smile and a modest demeanor. Kofi took her hand and announced his intention to court her, making his choice clear to everyone present. Lila felt as if the ground had been pulled out from beneath her. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. How could Kofi, the man who had been so kind and caring, choose someone else? Why had he led her to believe that they had a future together? Later that day, unable to bear the confusion and pain, Lila sought out Kofi. She needed to understand why he had made the choice he did. When she found him alone, she confronted him, her voice trembling with emotion. "Kofi, why? I thought we had something special. I thought you cared for me. Why did you choose her?" Kofi's face hardened and he looked away, unable to meet Lila's eyes. "Lila, I'm sorry," he began, his voice lacking the warmth it once held. "I do care for you, but you're not what I need in a wife. I'm the only son in my family. My parents expect me to marry someone who fits the traditional mold, someone who is slim, who can easily integrate into my family's expectations. I thought you would understand." Lila's heart shattered as she listened to Kofi's words. "So everything you said to me, everything we shared, it was all a lie?" "No," Kofi insisted, but his voice wavered. "I did care about you, Lila. But I just wanted to experience something different, something that wouldn't lead to complications. I never intended for it to go this far. I'm sorry, but I have to think of my family and my future. Lila felt tears welling up in her eyes, but she fought them back. You used me, she whispered, the realization cutting deep. You never truly cared about me. You just wanted an easy lay. Kofi's silence confirmed the truth, and Lila felt as though her heart had been ripped out of her chest. She turned away from him, unable to bear the sight of the man who had betrayed her trust so deeply. As Lila walked away from Kofi, her world crumbling around her, she found herself thinking of Amara. Throughout her life, Amara had always been there for her, offering comfort, support, and unwavering friendship. But now Lila felt utterly alone. When Lila found Amara, she couldn't hold back the tears any longer. Amara immediately pulled her into a comforting embrace, letting Lila cry on her shoulder. Amara didn't need to ask what had happened. She could see the pain in Lila's eyes. He chose someone else, Lila choked out between sobs. He said I wasn't what his family needed, that I was just an experience. Amara held Lila tightly, her own heart breaking for her friend. Lila, you deserve so much better than someone like Kofi, she said softly. He doesn't deserve you. You are strong, beautiful, and kind. And one day you will find someone who sees that, someone who will love you for who you are. Lila nodded, but the pain was still too fresh for her to fully believe Amara's words. But what about you, Amara? You were chosen by the rich man's son. You have everything you could want, and I'm happy for you, but I can't help feeling like I'm being left behind. Amara gently lifted Lila's chin so she could look into her eyes. Lila, I will always stand by you no matter what. You are not alone, and you never will be. Lila smiled weakly through her tears, grateful for Amara's words. Though her heart was broken, she knew that with Amara by her side, she would find the strength to heal and move forward. In the days and weeks that followed, Lila struggled to come to terms with Kofi's betrayal. The pain of his rejection was deep, but with Amara's support and the love of her family, she slowly began to rebuild her life. She threw herself into her work as a healer, finding solace in helping others. Several months had passed since Lila's heartbreak with Kofi, and though the pain had lessened, she still felt the need for a change of scenery. Her heart was mending, but the memories of the betrayal and the hurtful words from others in the village lingered. It was then that she decided to take a break and visit her Aunt Miri, who lived in the distant village of Ziba. Aunt Miri had always been a source of wisdom and comfort, and Lila longed for her guidance and the peace of mind that the village's calm environment could offer. Ziba was a beautiful village surrounded by lush green hills and rivers. It was known for its vibrant culture and kind-hearted people. Aunt Miri welcomed Lila with open arms, and for the first time in months, Lila felt a sense of tranquility. She spent her days helping her aunt with household chores, learning new recipes, and exploring the village. The villagers quickly grew fond of Lila, appreciating her gentle nature and healing skills. One day, as Lila was tending to her aunt's garden, the sound of the town crier's drum echoed through the village. Town crier, a man known for his loud voice and dramatic flair, stood in the village square, gathering a crowd. Lila, curious, joined the others to listen to the announcement. Hear ye, the crier bellowed. By order of His Majesty, the King of Ziba, a decree has been issued. Queen has fallen gravely ill, and no healer in the land has been able to cure her. King promises wealth, land, and riches to any healer who can diagnose and heal the queen. All who believe they have the skill are summoned to the palace at once. Crowd buzzed with excitement and concern. Queen was beloved by the people, and her illness was a source of great worry. Healers from all over the kingdom had already tried to cure her, but none had succeeded. Lila felt a stirring in her heart. Though she had come to Ziba to escape and find peace, she knew that her skills as a healer could not be ignored. Perhaps this was her calling, a way to truly help others and, in turn, help herself heal from her past. Aunt Miri noticed the determined look on Lila's face. "If anyone can help the queen, it's you, my dear," she said softly. "Go to the palace and do what you do best." The next morning, Lila made her way to the palace. The grand structure was imposing, with high walls and ornate carvings, but Lila walked through its gates with confidence. Inside, she was led to the queen's chamber, where she found the regal woman lying pale and weak on her bed, surrounded by worried attendants. Lila approached the queen with a respectful bow and began her examination. She asked the queen about her symptoms, carefully observing her responses and reactions. Lila also inquired about the queen's diet, particularly any recent changes. Queen's attendants provided her with a list of the foods and ingredients that had been used in the palace kitchen. After some time, Lila began to piece together the puzzle. She noticed that the queen's symptoms seemed to worsen after meals that included a particular root, a root that was commonly used in the palace but was not native to the region. Lila suspected that the queen was allergic to this root, and it was the cause of her mysterious illness. She immediately advised the royal chefs to remove the root from the queen's diet and prepared a herbal remedy to help cleanse the queen's system. Within days, the queen's condition began to improve. Her color returned, her strength gradually increased, and soon she was able to sit up and engage in conversation once more. The entire palace was abuzz with the news of the queen's miraculous recovery, and Lila was hailed as a hero. As Lila continued to care for the queen during her recovery, she often found herself in the presence of the young prince of Zeba. Prince Kwame was a striking figure, tall, handsome, with a strong yet gentle demeanor. Unlike many of the men Lila had known, Prince Kwame had an open mind and was drawn to the unusual and different. He found the traditions and expectations of the royal court stifling and was always seeking out new experiences and perspectives. Prince Kwame had heard of Lila's skills as a healer, and he was intrigued by her. He began to visit the queen's chambers more frequently under the pretense of checking on his mother, but it was clear to everyone that he was interested in Lila. He admired her intelligence, her compassion, and her quiet strength. The more time they spent together, the more captivated he became. First, Lila was hesitant. Her past experience with Kofi had left her wary of trusting men, especially those who seemed too good to be true. She kept her distance, focusing on her work and avoiding the prince's gaze. But Prince Kwame was persistent, though always respectful. He would engage Lila in conversation, asking her about her life, her dreams, and her views on the world. He listened intently to her every word, and slowly Lila began to let her guard down. As the weeks passed, Lila and Prince Kwame grew closer. The prince's kindness, sincerity, and genuine interest in her as a person began to erode the walls Lila had built around her heart. She found herself laughing at his jokes, enjoying their conversations, and looking forward to their time together. One evening, as they walked through the palace gardens, the prince finally confessed his feelings. "Lila," he began, his voice filled with emotion, "you are unlike anyone I have ever met. You are strong, wise, and compassionate. I admire you more than words can express, and I have fallen in love with you." Lila was taken aback by the prince's confession. Her heart raced as she processed his words. Could she allow herself to love again? Could she trust that this time things would be different? She looked into the prince's eyes and saw nothing but sincerity and love. Slowly, she nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. I have fallen for you too, Kwame," she admitted softly. From that moment on, Lila and Prince Kwame were inseparable. They spent their days exploring the village, learning from each other, and dreaming of a future together. The prince's open-mindedness and appreciation for Lila's differences made her feel valued and cherished in a way she had never experienced before. As the queen continued to recover, word of Lila and Prince Kwame's love spread throughout the kingdom. King, grateful for Lila's role in saving his wife, gave his blessing for the marriage. The entire kingdom of Zeba was overjoyed at the news, and preparations for the grand wedding began. The day of the wedding was a day of celebration, not just for Lila and Prince Kwame, but for the entire kingdom. The palace was adorned with flowers, banners, and lights. People from far and wide came to witness the union of the beloved prince and the healer who had saved their queen. Lila wore a stunning gown, intricately designed and embroidered with symbols of strength, healing, and love. As she walked down the aisle, her heart swelled with happiness. She could hardly believe that the girl who had once been rejected and ridiculed was now becoming the queen of a mighty kingdom. The ceremony was filled with joy and laughter, with the sounds of drums and traditional songs echoing through the palace grounds. Amara stood by Lila's side as her maid of honor, beaming with pride for her friend. As Lila and Prince Kwame exchanged their vows, the love between them was evident to all. It was a union not just of two hearts, but of two souls who had found in each other the acceptance and love they had always longed for. With the wedding, Lila's life took on a new chapter. As the Queen of Zeba, she was loved and respected by all. She continued her work as a healer, bringing her skills to the people of the kingdom and ensuring that all were cared for. But more than that, Lila became a symbol of hope and empowerment for young women throughout the land. She showed them that being different was not a curse, but a gift, and that true love and acceptance could be found when one stayed true to themselves. And as she stood by her husband's side, ruling the kingdom with wisdom and compassion, Lila knew that her journey had led her to exactly where she was meant to be. The once rejected girl from Kar was now a beloved queen, proving that the path to happiness is not always easy, but it is always worth it.